Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back. Today we're going to start constructing the tall mountain for the Lego City. Mrs. Brixie's in the house today, so she's going to help construct the mountain, which is pretty exciting. Of course, this is the larger of the two mountains that's going to host the Mountain View Observatory at the very top. We're going to have to use a lot of rock panels to construct this, specifically the corner ones. Luckily for us, we received a large shipment of those the other day, and you know what? We use over half of them in today's projects. So what we're doing is just lining up those rock panels there, but fully supporting it on the backside. And of course, you can't 100% build it out of the rock panels. You also have to brick build between the panels, and eventually it's going to be covered in thousands of slopes like I demonstrated the other day on the smaller mountain. But we're just cooking along here with the base construction of this mountain. As we get higher and higher, of course, it gets a little bit more difficult because your support structure has to be more elaborate. We're using a lot of technical elements within the support structure, and those 16 by 16 art panels, which are one brick and one plate tall, are excellent for supporting mountains. So no, they're not just for art. You can definitely use them for mountain construction or anything in your Lego City landscaping wise, or I guess for a lot of different things. But yeah, I put some support structures with those in the back there, and then we bridge across onto the giant rock wall that we've created, and we're just trying to give this somewhat of a dynamic shape, so making sure that it has lots of curves and some flat sections that we can decorate with like inversion and stuff like that. But our main goal is to try and make this as tall as possible without making it a square. That is definitely important. And you know what, while we're doing this, we're actually watching some shows in the background there. Survivor, we're all the way up to season 7. It's a great show to watch while you're just like building mountains and stuff like that. As we were doing this, we discovered that it was a little bit unergonomical, so we decided to move the other mountain to the floor because it essentially took up 2 whole tables, and after we did that, we slid the desk out a little bit, and this just made it a lot better for us. There was a lot more space to move around. But look at that, we're building up and up and up, and this thing is already getting pretty tall. Making sure to mix in a lot of light gray amongst the dark gray there just to break up that color a little bit. And of course, the backside is very, very colorful. You know, we've got a lot of mountains to build, and I have built a lot of different mountain structures throughout my Lego hobbyist career here. We have built, destroyed, and repeated that process plenty of times. And it's funny because Mrs. Bricksie and I are building together, and we both do things a little bit differently. Every time I would look over at her half, it's like, oh, you're doing that a little bit differently. You're like, you know, building bricks out of plates and just supporting it a little bit differently. It's sort of interesting. It is a very monotonous task, and it's not for everybody. I actually don't mind it though. I've done it so much that I'm actually pretty good at building the base construction for Lego mountains at this point. Eventually Mrs. Brixie was like, okay, my back hurts because we're doing it in a standing position. I'm going to go do something different while you do this. And that different thing was actually sorting all of this brick. We actually grabbed our giant brick bin and we dumped it out onto the 2 black tables that we have set up. And I was like, okay, we have all the bricks here together and we're using a lot of brick, a lot of light gray, a lot of dark gray, and a lot of the colorful stuff in behind the mountain. Why not sort some of the pieces that we need right now? She's like, oh yeah, well, I guess that's a good way to take a break there. Why not sort this big colorful pile of bricks? Just pulling out some of the more important ones that we need for this particular project right now. It's funny, because we had this big table full of bricks right beside where I was building it, I always come over and just like pick out a few bricks that I needed to support this giant mountain. Getting all that brick sorted was definitely a huge help, but there's still lots to go there. That's a good thing. It's awesome because all of this stuff here can be used to support the mountain, which is coming along great. We've got this section here. That's the first corner, built up to the height that it needs to be. I actually put this support in, this large tower, and that represents the corner of the larger plate in the center, which will host the Mountain View Observatory at the top. And I've built this section up to where it needs to be, just a few more bricks there actually. And now I'm working on this section here, and I've got to build that up to the peak as well. As tall as it can be, essentially, as long as it goes right up to the edge of the 16 by 16 on the end there. And then I've got to build this corner up that Mrs. Brixie was working on there, all the way up to this height as well. But that's the height that we intended to have the Mountain View Observatory at. And we've got really good news, everybody. It looks like we're going to be able to have it at that height there. which is definitely pretty exciting. All right, let's continue building up these sections. So yeah, I just got to get up to like the first ridge here. This is a relatively funny thing to do because as you get higher and higher and higher, it's hard to see those visual lines. But I ended up making a actual hard line using bricks because of course I had to support this. So I have some tall towers of support coming off the back there, and there's some Technic bricks that bridge onto the various support pieces and then eventually onto the rock panels. And I just sort of build up using more of the rock panels and more of the bricks, and sort of get the base construction for the first layer done. And just like that, we're at the height that we need to be at. And the next thing I need to do is clean up because we made a giant mess. And I was like cleaning up the workstation just so when we come in here the next day, it's not a gigantic mess. So just sort of like hit the reset button and then prepare ourselves for the next day. Now, the next thing that I need to do for this mountain here is actually build a wood platform because I don't want the center section to be all Lego built because I feel like that's just going to be a waste of pieces. So for this particular one here, I am going to construct a wood platform that's going to support that mills plate in the middle, which is 2 by 3 base plates. So I have to whip out the saw and the drill and make something for that. So I had to move construction to the floor just because it was getting too big for tables. The wood platform that the upper section is going to sit on is approximately 17 inches tall. I cut the legs to 16¼ inches, plus we have the sheet of melamine on the top, and then of course the mills plate. And this right here is going to support the Mountain View Observatory. This is what the first section of mountain looks like from the back side. So lots of colorful supports and some 16 by 16 Technic panels in there. You can see the support work is sort of bridging off one another to try and conserve as many pieces as possible, or just use as few as possible, but it is rock solid, as I like to say. This one here will just slide into place next to the other mountain mills plate there, and it should go right up against that mills plate. It was a bit tricky just getting it all built right to the edge because we were building so high, so making sure that it's actually contained on its plate was very important, but that should go snug up against that like so. And of course this will just move so it's in the perfect position. Then we have the second section of mountain. So these are 90-degree plates. Each one is 3 base plates, but same sort of deal here. Lots of rock panels and lots of supporting brick in whatever color and whatever size. Just sort of whatever works. We've got some Technic bridging across in different areas. And this one will slide in place like that. And it should match up right there when we get the base plates aligned. So of course there's a lot of flat faces here, and there is going to be some color that's poking out, but that will all be blended in when we use a bunch of slopes and all that, as I mentioned during the time lapse there. And there's the first section. That's as tall as we can go with these sections, which are like the right angles, sort of the corners of the mountain. And then of course we need to continue working our way up on this mills plate. I just wanted to cut that platform so that it was at the minimum height that we could cover here, just because that makes sense. Now we can just start building from here up to the top of the Mountain View Observatory platform, which will be built out of Lego. What's the exact height of that? I'm not too sure at this point. That will just be dependent on how high we can get the mountain. So it might be higher than that. It might be a little bit shorter than that. Now this mountain here, it's going to have to hang a right turn here, and this range is going to continue this way. That's why I decided to bring up these mills plates here, just to visualize how big this range is going to be. So I think that this is going to be the tallest mountain, but we're going to have multiple or other mountains that are approximately this size here, and they're going to continue toward the winter village, which is technically right where our ugly heat vent is, right there. Keeps the place warm though. So yeah, we've got to build more mountains along here, and what's going to happen is this is going to be a right angle, and we're actually going to build a structure like this, and you can see it inside here, and that's going to be built just right there, and then we'll build up. So we don't need to start from the ground over here, thankfully. We can actually just start the structure for the next mountain, and those will, of course, merge, just like this mountain has over here. So the peaks sort of go up. And of course, we've got to build the structure for the continuation of this mountain here, just like we did for this one. But this one's going to have a little bit of green brick tapering that we're going to have to do toward the outside plate there. And then we'll build up toward the first tier. So hopefully that all works out. But you can see how much mountain building we have to do here. The first one looks great. Still got to do some detailing on it. Got the first couple panels done there for the second one. Of course, got to detail those, but we'll hold off on that until we get the complete base structure made. And then we've got lots more mountain building that will be going down in the future. So this right here is the area down in the Lego City. So this represents the white exposed raised platform right there going up against the Winter Village and campground. And that just gives you a good example of how big the mountain range is. It consumes a lot of base plates in the Lego City. And we're also going to have to build the foot of the mountain right there beside the tunnel. We want to have some sort of false tunnel there as well for vehicle access. And I think there's going to be some sort of vehicle access up to the Winter Village as well, because there is a road access point right there. So we're going to have to figure out how that works. But of course, those base plates up there and the already pre-constructed mountains don't include all of the mountain work that we need to do around this Winter Village. So yeah, pretty extreme. It's cool that I decided to bring the entire, or all of the mills plates up there for the primary mountain range. It just gives you a good visual when you're looking down at the Lego City from like way up here, for example. So that mountain range right there, the exposed wood, is now represented up here. So I think these, well, maybe not these ones, we're not going to leave them sprawled out, but all of this stuff sort of needs to stay up here until we get the base construction for this built. Sort of dangerous placing that on top, but there's the Mountain View Observatory. And I will have to change this to snow cap. And in fact, you can see we hit the snow line right here. So I might have to swap out some of these bricks to white. I don't know how we're going to do that because we're building with rock panels. So maybe all of the slope detail work will have to be white because I can't get white rock panels and I don't want to brick build it all. So you're going to have to decide how to do the snow cap details. I guess it's just going to have to be a copious amount of white slopes and smaller white brick on top of the rock panels. But there you go. We made some pretty good progress with the larger mountain today. Pretty exciting. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned because we got lots more mountains to build. Thank you so much for coming on by. Farewell. Have a great day.